direction should have plenty of strength for what comes next. I smack the winch a couple of times just to make sure it's properly seated. It is. Then I press the activation button. A gear pops out from the center of the winch, one cog catching a chain link through the center. The gear turns and drags the chain into the internal workings of the winch. Inside, it rotates the link 180 degrees, then slides it across its neighbor to release it. When we made the chain, we did it with trap links that can connect without us having to seal each one. It's extremely unlikely that random movement would separate the links, but the winch is deliberately designed to do just that. Once the link is freed, the winch ejects it out the side and repeats the process for the next link. "The winch works," I say through my radio.
"Happy,"
comes Rocky's voice. It's simple, straightforward, elegant, and solves all the problems. The winch is powerful enough to lift the chain. It separates the links and lets them fall into the planet below. Having a long length of chain dangling down next to the one we're pulling up would be a disaster. Imagine earbud wires getting tangled, then multiply that by 10 kilometers. No. Each link will take its own path to oblivion below, and the rising chain will be unaffected.
"When winch get to link 216, you increase speed."
Yes. I have no idea how many links it's done so far, but it's plugging along nicely. Probably about 2 links per second, a safe, slow beginning. I watch for 2 minutes. That's probably about right. All good, at least 216 links now.
"Increase speed."
2 links per second may seem like a good clip, but it would take about 30 hours to raise the chain at that rate. I don't want to be out here that long, and we definitely don't want to stay in this risky, constant thrust situation for that long. I press the control lever forward. The winch speeds up. Everything seems fine, so I put it in the final position. Now the links fly out of the winch faster than I can count, and the chain rises at a brisk pace. The winch is at maximum speed. All is good.
"Happy."
I keep my hand on the control lever and my eyes on the chain. If that sampler gets to the winch, everything will go south. The sample container will be torn apart, all the samples will die, and we'd have to make another chain. I don't want to do that. Lord, I cannot express how much I don't want to do that. I squint into the distance, ever vigilant. Boredom is a real problem here. I know it will take quite a while to pull up this whole chain, but I have to be ready for the sampler.
"Sample device radio signal strong,"
Rocky says.
"Getting closer. Be ready."
I'm ready.
"Be very ready."
I am very ready. Be calm.
"Am calm. You be calm."
No, you be calm. Wait, I see the sampler. The end of the chain with the sampler attached rushes up toward me from the planet below. I grab the control lever and slow the winch. The sampler climbs slower and slower until it's at a crawl. All but the last few links of the chain fall to their doom, and the sampler is finally within reach. I stop the winch. Rather than risk stupidly dropping the big orb, I grab the top remaining link of the chain and unhitch it from the winch. Now I have a ball and chain. I hang on to the chain for dear life and clip it to my belt. I still don't let it go. I'm not taking any chances with this.
"Status question?"
I have the sampler returning.
"Amaze. Happy, happy, happy."
Don't be happy until I'm inside.
"Understand."
I take 2 steps and the ship shudders. I fall to the hull and grab 2 handrails. What the heck was that?
"I not know. Ship moves sudden."
The ship shudders again. This time it's a steady pull. We're thrusting the wrong direction.
"Get inside fast, fast, fast."
The horizon rises in my view. The Hail Mary isn't maintaining her angle anymore. She's tilting forward. That is absolutely not supposed to be happening. I clamber from handhold to handhold. I don't have time to attach the tether each step. I just have to hope I don't fall. Another sudden jerk and the hull slips sideways under my feet. I fall on my back, but I keep my death grip on the sampler chain. What is going on? No time to think. I have to get inside before the ship capsizes and kills me. I cling to the handholds for dear life and crawl to the airlock. Thank God it's still facing more or less up. I hold the sampler to my chest and fall inside. I land head first. Good for me the Orlan helmet is so sturdy. I squirm to my feet as best I can in the clunky spacesuit. I reach up, grab the outer hatch, and slam it closed. I cycle the airlock and get out of the suit as fast as I can. I'll leave the sampler in the airlock for now. I need to know what the heck is wrong with this ship. I half climb, half fall into the control room. Rocky is in his bulb.
"Screens flash many colors,"
he yells over the din. He points his camera here and there, watching the feed on his textured screen. A metallic groan screams from somewhere down below. Something is bending and doesn't want to. I think it's the hull. I get in the control seat. No time to strap in. Where's that noise coming from?
"All around,"
he says.
"But loudest at starboard dormitory wall segment, it bending inward."
Something's tearing the ship apart. Gotta be the gravity.
"Agree."
But that bothers me in the back of my mind. This ship was made for acceleration. It endured 4 years at 1.5 Gs. Surely it can handle this similar force. Something doesn't add up. Rocky grabs several of his handholds for support.
"We have sampler. We leave now."
"Yeah, let's get out of here." I throw the spin drive controls to full. The ship can pull up to 2G when push comes to shove, and I think push has definitely come to shove. The ship lurches forward. This is not a graceful, well-executed burn. This is nothing short of panicked flight. The efficient way to leave a gravity well is laterally, to take advantage of the Oberth effect. I try to keep us more or less level to the ground below. I'm not trying to get away from Adrian. I just want to get into a stable orbit that doesn't need engines to maintain. I need velocity, not distance. I need to keep the drives at full power for 10 minutes. That should get us the 12 kilometers per second we need to stay in orbit. I just need to point a little above the horizon and thrust. At least, that's what I want, but it's not happening. The ship keeps yawing forward and drifting laterally. What is going on? Something wrong, I say. She's fighting me. Rocky has no trouble hanging on. He has many multiples of my strength.
"Engine damage question? Much heat from Adrian."
Maybe. I check the nav console. We're gaining velocity. That's something at least.
"Hull bending in big room below dormitory,"
Rocky says. What? There's no room below? Oh. He can sense the whole ship with his echolocation, not just the habitable area. So when he says big room below the dormitory, he means the fuel tanks. Oh, dear.
"Turn off engines question?"
We're going too slow. We'll fall into the atmosphere.
"Understand. Hope."
Hope. Yes. Hope. That's all we have at this point. Hope that the ship doesn't wreck itself before we get into a stable orbit. The next several minutes are the tensest of my life, and if I may say so, I've had some pretty tense moments these past few weeks. The hull continues to make horrible noises, but we're not dead, so I guess it didn't breach. Finally, after what seems like a whole lot more than 10 minutes, our velocity is enough to stay in orbit. Velocity good. Stopping engines. I slide the spin drive power sliders to 0. I let my head fall back to the headrest in relief. Now we can take our time and figure out what went wrong. No need to use the engines to... Wait. My head fell back into the headrest. It fell back into the headrest. I hold my arms out in front of me, then relax them. They fall down and to the left.
"Gravity is still here,"
says Rocky, echoing my own observations. I check the nav console. Our velocity is good. We're in a stable orbit around Adrian. Well, actually, it's ugly as heck. The apogee is 2,000 kilometers farther from the planet than perigee, but it's an orbit, darn it, and it's stable. I check the spin drive panel again. All 3 drives are at 0. No thrust at all. I delve into the diagnostics screen and confirm that each of the 1009 revolver triangles spread throughout the 3 drives is stationary. They are. I let my arm fall again. It does the same strange movement, down and to the left. Rocky does a similar motion with one of his arms.
Adrian, gravity question?
No, we're in orbit. I scratch my head.
Spin drive question?
No, it's offline. There's 0 thrust. I let my arm fall again. This time it hits the armrest of the seat. Ow! I shake my hand. It really hurt. I let it fall again, as an experiment. It fell faster this time. That's why it hurt. Rocky pulls several tools from his jumpsuit bandolier and drops them one at a time.
Gravity increasing.
This doesn't make any sense, I say. I check the nav panel again. Our speed has increased considerably since I last looked. Our velocity is increasing.
Engines on, only explanation.
Can't be, the spin drives are off. There's nothing to accelerate us.
Force increasing,
he says. Yes, I say. I'm having trouble breathing now. Whatever we're at, it's much higher than a G or 2. Things are getting out of hand. With all my strength, I reach to the screen and cycle through panels. Navigation, Petrovoscope, external view, life support. Each one seems completely normal until I reach structure. I'd never paid a lot of attention to the structure panel. It's just a gray outline of the ship, but now, for the first time, it has something to say. There's an irregular red blotch on the port fuel tank. Is that a hull breach? It could be. The fuel tanks are outside the pressure vessel. They could have a huge hole in them and we wouldn't lose air. There's a hole in the ship, I say. I struggle to switch back to the external cameras. Rocky watches my screen with his camera and texture pad. He's doing fine, no problems at all from the tremendous forces. I angle the cameras around to look at the affected hull. And there it is. A massive hole in the port side of the ship. It must be 20 meters long and half as wide. The edges of the hole tell the tale. The hull melted. It was the blowback from Adrian's atmosphere, not a physical explosion, but pure, unadulterated infrared light reflected off the air. The ship tried to warn me that the hull got too hot. I should have listened. I thought the hull couldn't melt. It was cooled by astrophage. But of course it can melt, even if astrophage is a perfect heat absorber, and it may be. The heat has to conduct through the metal before it can be absorbed. If the outer layer of the hull reaches its melting point faster than the heat can transmit through the thickness of the hull, the astrophage can't do anything about it. Confirmed, hull breach, port fuel tank.
Why thrust question?
It all comes together. Oh, crap. The astrophage in the fuel bay, it's exposed to space. That means it can see Adrian. My fuel is migrating to Adrian to breed.
Bad, bad, bad.
That's where the thrust is from. Trillions and trillions of horny little astrophages all ready to breed. And then all at once they see Adrian. Not just a source of carbon dioxide, but their ancestral homeland. The planet they evolved over billions of years to seek out. As each new sheet of astrophage rushes out of the ship and toward Adrian, the next layer of astrophage gets exposed. The ship is being pushed along by the IR thrust from the departing astrophage. Fortunately, the rest of the astrophage behind them are present to absorb the energy. But in absorbing that energy, they absorb the momentum. It's far from a perfect system. It's a chaotic, sputtering explosion. Any second now, this could degenerate into a much larger and less directed plume of IR and will be vaporized. I have to make this stop. I can jettison fuel bays. I saw that feature on my first day in the control room. Where the heck was it? It takes all the strength I have to lift my arm to the screen, but I managed to bring up the astrophage panel. It shows a map of the ship and the fuel bay area is broken up into 9 rectangles. I don't have time to cross-reference these rectangles to the part of the bad hull. I grunt, force my arm forward, and tap one that I think is in the right place. "Throwing away bad fuel bay," I say through clenched teeth.
"Yes, yes, yes,"
Rocky says, cheering me on. The fuel pod screen pops up. Astrophage, 112.079 kg. Next to that, a button labeled Jettison. I punch it. A confirmation dialog pops up. I confirm. A sudden jerk of acceleration hurls me to the side. Even Rocky is unable to hold position. He slams into the side of his bulb, but quickly rights himself and clamps onto his handholds with all 5 hands. The hull groans louder than before. The acceleration has not stopped, and my vision grows foggy. The pilot's seat begins to bend. I'm about to black out, so we're probably at 6G or more.
"Thrust continues,"
Rocky quavers. I can't reply. I can't get any sound out at all. I know the fuel bay I jettisoned was in the affected area. There must be more than one breached bay. No time for subtlety. In a few seconds, the force will be too strong for me to reach the screen at all. If there's a second breached bay, it'll be adjacent to the bay I just ditched. But there are 2 adjacent bays. I pick one at random, 50-50 shot. With a Herculean effort, I tap its icon, the jettison button, and confirm. A jolt rocks the ship, and I'm thrown around like a rag doll. In my ever-darkening peripheral vision, I see Rocky curled up into a ball, bouncing against the walls, leaving silver blood splatters wherever he hits. If anything, the force is worse than before. But wait, now it's the other direction. Instead of being pulled back into my seat, I'm now being pulled away from it, my body pressing into the restraints. The centrifuge screen of all things comes to the foreground. "Excessive centrifugal force warning," it blinks. I say. I meant to say, "Oh God," but I can't breathe anymore. All that fuel blasting out into space, it didn't politely leave along the ship's long axis. It blew out at an angle, spinning us like a top. And the exploding fuel bays probably made things even worse. Well, I stopped the fuel leak at least. There are no new thrust vectors acting on the ship. Now I just have to deal with the spin. I managed to get a breath in. The centrifugal force is less than the uncontrolled thrust force, but it's still monumental. But hey, at least it pulls my arms toward the screen instead of away from it. If I can get the spin drives back online, maybe I can cancel my seat finally gives out. I hear the pops as the anchor points shear off. I fall forward into the screen, still strapped to the metal seat, which crushes me from behind. The chair probably doesn't weigh much in normal gravity, maybe 20 kilograms. But with this much centripetal force, it's like having a cement block on my back. I can't breathe. This is it. The weight of the chair is so much I can't inflate my lungs. I get dizzy. Mechanical suffocation, it's called. It's how boa constrictors kill their prey. What an odd thing to think is my last thought. Sorry, Earth, I think. There, much better last thought. My lungs, now full of carbon dioxide, panic. But the adrenaline rush doesn't give me the strength I need to escape. It just keeps me awake so I can experience death in more detail. Thanks, adrenal glands. The groaning of the ship has stopped. I guess anything that was going to break has broken, and all that's left is stuff that can handle the stress. My eyes water. They sting. Why? Am I crying? I have personally failed my entire species, and they're all going to die because of it. It's a good reason to cry, but this isn't emotional. It's pain. My nose hurts, too. And not from physical pressure or anything. Something burns at my nasal passages from the inside. Something probably broke open in the lab. Some nasty chemical. Just as well I can't breathe. I probably wouldn't like the smell. Then, out of nowhere, I can breathe again. I don't know how or why, but I gasp and wheeze in my newfound freedom. I immediately fall into a violent coughing fit. Ammonia. Ammonia everywhere. It's overpowering. My lungs scream and my eyes water over. Then there's a new smell. Fire. I roll around to see Rocky hovering over me. Not in his compartment. He's in the control room. He has slashed my restraints and pulled the chair free. He shoves it to the side. He stands over me, wobbling. I can feel the heat radiating from his body just inches away. Smoke billows out of the radiator slits atop his carapace. His knees buckle and he collapses onto the screen next to me, destroying it. The LCD unit blacks out and the plastic bezel melts. I see a trail of smoke leading up the tunnel to the lab and beyond. "Rocky, what have you done?" The crazy bastard must have used the large airlock in the dormitory. He came into my partition to save me, and he'll die because of it. He shivers and folds his legs under himself.
Save Earth. Save Arid,
he quavers. Then he slumps down. "Rocky?" I grab his carapace without thinking. It's like putting my hands on a burner. I jerk away. "Rocky, no!" But he is motionless. Chapter 20. Rocky's body heats up the whole room. I can barely move. The force of the centrifuge is so great. I groan, pushing myself up off the cracked monitor. I drag myself across the shards to the next monitor over. I try not to lift too much of my body up at a time. I have to save my strength. I slide my finger onto the monitor from the edge and tap the screen select buttons at the bottom. I've got one chance at this. I remember the navigation controls. The manual control section has a button to zero out all rotation. That's mighty tempting right now, but I can't risk it. The fuel bay is wide open. I've jettisoned a couple of pods, and I have no idea what other damage may have been done. The last thing I want to do is fire up any spin drives, even the little ones that do attitude control. I bring up the centrifuge screen. It blinks red and white, still angry about the excessive tumble the ship is undergoing. With effort, I dismiss the warning, then enter into manual mode. There are a bunch of, "Hey, don't do this" kind of dialogues, but I dismiss them all. Soon I have direct control over the cable spools. I set them spinning at max speed. The room spins and tilts in weird ways. My inner ears and my eyes are not enjoying the discrepancy. I know it's because the two halves of the ship are separating, and that has nasty effects on the forces I feel here in the control room, but logic doesn't do any good in this situation. I turn my head and vomit on the wall. After a few seconds, the force reduces dramatically. Much more manageable now. Less than 1G, actually. All thanks to the magic of centrifuge math. The force you feel in a centrifuge is inverse to the square of the radius. By spooling out the cables, I made the radius go from 20 meters, half the length of the ship, to 75 meters, distance from the control room to the center of mass with full cable extension. I don't know how much force I was dealing with before, but now it's 1/14th as much as it was. I'm still pinned against the monitor, though not nearly as hard. I estimate about half a G. I can breathe again. Everything feels upside down. I used the centrifuge in manual mode, so it did exactly what I told it to do and nothing else. It extended the cables. It did not rotate the crew compartment to face inward. The centrifuge pushes everything toward the nose of the crew compartment. The lab is up from me now, and the dormitory is even farther up. I don't even know where the manual controls for the crew compartment rotation are, and I don't have time to look for them. For now, I'll have to work in upside-down land. I bound to the airlock and open it up. Everything is a shambles inside, but I don't care. I untangle the wadded-up EVA suit and detach the gloves. I put them on. Back in the control room, I stand on the consoles. The control panels are down now. I hope I'm not damaging things too much. I position myself over Rocky's body, grab both sides of his carapace with my gloved hands, and lift. Good God! I put him back down. If I try to move him like that, I'll throw out my back. But I did lift him, however briefly. It felt like 200 pounds. Thank God we're in 1/2 gravity. He'd weigh 400 pounds at full gravity. I'll need more than my hands to lift him. I throw off the gloves, bounce back to the airlock, and fling items aside until I find the safety tethers. I wrap 2 tethers under Rocky's carapace and loop them over my shoulders. I burn my arms in several places during the process, but I'll deal with that later. I clip each tether to itself under my armpits. This won't be comfortable, and it definitely won't look cool, but my hands will be free and I'll be lifting with my legs. I reach through the hatchway to the lab with both hands and get a hold of the closest rung of the ladder. It's slow going at first. There's no ladder in the control room. Why would there be? No one thought it would be upside down. My shoulders scream in pain. This is not a well-designed backpack with a properly distributed load. It's 200 pounds of alien held up by 2 thin straps digging into my collarbones, and I just have to hope the melting point of the nylon tethers is higher than Rocky's body temperature. I grunt and grimace 1 rung at a time until I get my feet into the lab. I use the edge of the hatchway to brace my feet and pull Rocky up with the straps. The lab is a disaster. Everything is in piles all over the ceiling. Only the table and chairs remain on the floor above me. They're bolted to the floor, and thankfully, most of the more delicate equipment is bolted to them. However, that delicate off-the-shelf lab equipment wasn't designed to be rattled around like popcorn and subjected to 6 or 7 Gs. I wonder how many things are hopelessly broken. The gravity is less up here. I'm closer to the center of the centrifuge. The higher I get, the easier things will be. I kick lab supplies and equipment out of my way and drag Rocky to the dormitory hatchway. I repeat the painful process I just did a moment ago. The force is less, but it still hurts. Again, I use the hatchway as a bracing point to pull Rocky into the room. My little section of the dormitory barely fits us both. Rocky's section is a mess, just like the lab. His workbench wasn't bolted in place, so it's on the ceiling now. I drag him across the ceiling, and I get up on my bunk. It has swiveled completely around thanks to its rocking pivot mounting. It's a handy platform for reaching the airlock between my zone and Rocky's. The airlock door sits open on my side. He used it to come save me. Man, why did you do that? I grouse. He could have let me die. He should have, really. He could handle the centripetal force, no problem. He could have taken his time, whipped up an invention, and used it to get back control of this ship. Yeah, I know, he's a good guy and he saved my life, but this